start recording.
Hello, and welcome to the Association of Child Life Professionals webinar on Internship Accreditation. My name is Jenny Brandt.
I'm Emily Durham.
And I'm Stephanie Colabaradino.
And we are all members of the Internship Accreditation Oversight Committee, here to help provide some information that may be helpful for you if you are interested in determining if you would like to have your internship go through the accreditation process, or if you are another member of our professional organization that is trying to find information about internship accreditation. Our objectives today are to provide the definition of accreditation of clinical internships in child life as approved by the Association of Child Life Professionals. We will present the charge of the Internship Accreditation Task Force and outline the responsibilities and composition of the Internship Accreditation Oversight Committee. We will describe the responsibilities and requirements of a clinical internship accreditation reviewer, list the benefits of accreditation for clinical internship programs, and review the accreditation application process for clinical internships. So what is accreditation? This is an assurance that a program meets the minimum standards and requirements that have been established. It is a voluntary process of self-study and external review that is intended to evaluate, enhance, and publicly recognize the quality child life clinical internship programs. This process is intended to evaluate the extent to which a program meets the competencies defined by the essential internship curriculum topics and the practice analysis, and to promote the interests of students through continuous quality improvement of learning and professional practice. The process began with the Internship Accreditation Task Force. Who were they? They were a diverse group of child life specialists, leaders, internship coordinators across many hospitals of varying sized internship programs. They began back in 2012 and were charged with the development of overall standards and expectations for the conduct and coverage of child life internship programs, and to recommend a process and procedures for ongoing accreditation, endorsement, or other level of recognition of the child life internship programs by the ACLP. The time frame that they did this was over a 2-year period, and in that time frame, they asked themselves several questions to help determine our current standards. They asked things like, how many hours should a minimum internship be? Should there be a minimum number of rotations? What are the expectations and credentials of supervisors and preceptors? And how do we ensure that all supervisors are competent in all areas before supervising an intern? We also used recommendations by the ACLP as a part of our process. The background that the Internship Accreditation Task Force did was initial literature review. They benchmarked against similar professionals who also use the accreditation processes. Different professions like social work, play therapy, recreational therapy, expressive arts, music and art therapy, counseling, nursing, chaplaincy, psychology, physical, occupational therapies, student teaching, and different business models. They created a list of questions for this benchmarking purpose. First, they asked if there was an accredited internship program within these professions. What does the type of quality give value to the hospitals if we did an accredited process? Would it be valued by Joint Commission? What are some of the outcomes of our past interns? And how do students know you have an accredited or a valued internship site? They also completed a cost-benefit analysis, reviewed the ACLP practice analysis, and reviewed current internship curriculum guidelines. From that, the Internship Accreditation Oversight Committee was formed. This committee manages the clinical internship accreditation process in collaboration with the ACLP staff. They were all named by the ACLP Board of Directors in the beginning. This committee is made up of members of the ACLP that exemplify the following criteria. All members are ACLP members. They have been either an ACLP committee member or a board member within the last 5 years. They have the ability and have demonstrated leadership within the ACLP or within their individual programs. They have experience with internship coordination. They are supportive of the strategic plan and the clinical internship accreditation process. And they have a minimum of 8 years as a certified child life specialist. After an initial 3-year term as a content reviewer, past reviewers may be invited to become a part of the IAOC. What are the responsibilities of the IAOC? First, they are charged with the selection of these content reviewers and then training them to review accreditation applications. They will intake and accept accreditation reviewers and the clinical internship applications that are being submitted. They will then distribute the accreditation applications to reviewers for the review process. They are also responsible for communicating to the clinical internship programs and with membership of the ACLP any accreditation standards and processes. They are responsible for being public with the membership of the ACLP via website, news flashes, bulletin articles, blog posts, and different webinars. They will manage the process of the application submission. Initially was done by a lottery process. They continue to maintain and educate our membership on the internship accreditation. They also help manage the appeals process, which we will discuss later in this webinar. Additionally, they act as chief reviewers on all of the internship accreditation applications. Members of the IAOC will review subsection A of the application and determine if the requirement has been met. Chief reviewers are privy to the submitting information of the clinical internships names and will compare the content reviewers' scores and comments to determine a recommendation for the applying clinical internship. More regarding this process will follow further in our webinar. So why seek accreditation? There are many benefits in having an accredited clinical internship. The ACLP discusses several benefits for child life specialists to obtain certification. Many of these reasons for obtaining accreditation are similar to the reasons for obtaining child life certification. One is professional identity. An accredited clinical internship will attract exceptional interns and job candidates. Also, the internship accreditation process may help your team explore and highlight many parts of your internship. Quality assurance and evidence-based practice used by your team, as well as a program self-evaluation. It is a recognition to achieve formal acknowledgement of your internship's accomplishments. You may enjoy global recognition as well as your accredited internship is highlighted at various learning institutions across the world. It provides advancement in our field. An accredited clinical internship may help your interns benefit from enhanced career opportunities with the potential for an increased salary. Also, the advancement of the internship through accreditation brings improvement of patient safety. You will enjoy the respect and improve your program's credibility by validating your internship's specialized knowledge and expertise to peers, management, and other interdisciplinary colleagues. An accredited internship may also bring enhanced recognition of the overall professional outlook and importance of the child life profession. There is a growth opportunity as accredited internship programs prepare your interns for continued professional excellence through the strong education and professional development. The accreditation process asks institutions and systems to critically evaluate their vision, strategies, priorities, and leadership, programs, and resources. This process of earning and maintaining accreditation provides internships with clear and compelling direction for implementing changes to move towards excellence. There is a passion when you demonstrate your program's commitment to advancing the child life profession. Students successfully complete an internship from an accredited program may have access to enhanced opportunities of employment, graduate education, and global mobility. There's also a pride in being able to enjoy elevated self-esteem and satisfaction in knowing that your internship meets the criteria of accreditation. Enjoy a sense of pride in knowing that you have strived to improve the standards and quality of care. Students who are educated at this elevated learning environment will be more equipped and competent in their interactions with patients, families, and hospital personnel. And finally, in a 2017 survey of child life students, the students understood that accredited programs have been evaluated and adhere to the clinical training standards that have been set forth by the ACLP. 75% of the respondents of these students reported that when given the option to choose between a non-accredited internship and an accredited internship site, they would choose the accredited program as they believe accredited internships will better prepare them for the field, the exam, and provide them with more professional opportunities post their internship. So what is the cost of accreditation? Clinical internships that are seeking accreditation are required to pay an application fee and an annual maintenance fee in order to initiate and maintain the accreditation status. This fee will help fund the general administration of the accreditation process, which includes activities such as management of the application materials, maintenance of our online portal, reviewing the application, recording, record keeping, and communication about the accreditation decision. The initial standard fee is $1,500 and will be payable at the time the application is due. The annual maintenance fee is $100. If a program receives a denial of their accreditation application, there is an application fee of $250, which will cover the cost of this process. Again, this process will be discussed further on in our webinar. After an initial 5-year period, an accreditation renewal fee will be determined, as well as the process for that. So what is the timeline for accreditation application submissions? The Internship Accreditation Oversight Committee takes applications 4 times a year. The initial contact person will submit an intent to apply form through the ACLP website, and a staff member from the ACLP will then assign the clinical internship a slot in the timeline for their submission. As you can see from this graph here, or from this outline, we will take internship applications in January, April, July, and October, with the ability to take 5 new applications with each quarter. Our accreditation reviewers. Clinical internship accreditation reviewers are made up of certified child life specialists who have applied and were selected to objectively review clinical internships for eligibility of accreditation. Reviewers are expected to review 1 to 2 applications per quarter. Their qualifications are that they must be a certified child life specialist and a current member of the ACLP. They must also have a minimum of 8 years or 16,000 hours of paid clinical experience as a certified child life specialist. They must demonstrate and show that they have experience in leadership and management or as an internship coordinator. They will provide 3 letters of reference emphasizing their communication skills, adhere to the strict confidentiality of all information that is reviewed, agree to the training in the review process, and agree to excuse him or herself from the reviews which reflect any conflicts of interest, dual relationships, or ethical dilemmas. Our chief reviewers are acting committee members of the IAOC. The chief reviewers will evaluate subsection A of the application for accreditation. Chief reviewers are privy to the identity of the clinical internship and its clinical supervisors. The content reviewers will, as selected from the slides before us, as mentioned in the application process, will only review subsections B and C of the application. Content reviewers are blinded to the identity of the applying clinical internship. Each application is reviewed by 2 content reviewers who work independently of each other to determine the scoring of assigned sections. If there is a discrepancy, the chief reviewer makes the final decision on the scoring and the outcome.
When a program applies for accreditation, they submit the application fee of $1,500 and complete the online accreditation application. After an initial screen, the ACLP sends the application to 2 content reviewers. The 2 reviewers will independently review subsection B and C. The content reviewer is given 6 to 8 weeks to complete their review. The application then goes to a chief reviewer. A chief reviewer is a committee member of the IAOC who will be privy to the information concerning the title of the submitting hospital. The chief reviewer will review subsection A. The chief reviewer will then review all the scores from all 3 sections and make the final determination of accreditation status. The chief reviewer also completes a brief internship accreditation application report that will be shared with the applicant. Accreditation status is then communicated to the applying clinical internship by the ACLP. The purpose of the application is to prove that the program supports basic clinical competence. Applicants provide narrative explanations and supporting documentation for tasks associated with the 3 domains of clinical practice: professional responsibility, assessment, and clinical intervention. If the program wishes to appeal a decision, they can follow the appeals process to do so. We'll discuss that more in later slides. The definition of a clinical internship is that it provides interns in the field of child life opportunities that lead to demonstrated competence in all domains. The clinical internship should include training and education in a manner that results in entry-level professional competence. A clinical internship can be offered at one site or as a consortium. A child life clinical internship consortium is when 2 or more independent institutions combine to provide a clinical internship. The consortium must consider itself one clinical internship. There must be a formal agreement between the institutions that sponsor the experience, and one individual must serve as the consortium clinical internship coordinator and have primary responsibility for the program and communications with the ACLP or the IAOC. Each institution or organization must designate a clinical rotation supervisor for the program that is an employee of the organization and meets the ACLP clinical supervision criteria. The mandatory expectations for the clinical internship coordinator are that they maintain their professional certification, have at least 8,000 hours of paid experience as a certified child life specialist prior to coordinating a clinical internship. They must ensure a systematic evaluation process, including criteria for scoring evaluations. They must have weekly meetings with the intern, ensure a systematic process for dismissal if necessary, follow the ACLP clinical internship offer and acceptance recommended deadlines, provide oversight and guidance to clinical rotation supervisors. This individual is the primary person responsible for the development and implementation of the clinical internship. There are also mandatory expectations for the clinical rotation supervisors. Again, they must maintain their professional certification, have at least 4,000 hours of paid experience as a certified child life specialist prior to supervising interns. They must assume responsibility for the educational development and guidance of interns. They can supervise a maximum of 1 intern at a time. They must have weekly meetings with the intern and have daily contact with the intern, both the supervisor and the intern working 80% of the same hours. The application is divided into 3 sections. Section 1 is the application cover page, with details about the hospital and clinical internship program. Section 2 of the application is for the individual exemplars and is comprised of subsections A, B, and C. Section 3 is the attachment of any supporting documents and narratives. We're going to go into each section in depth. The first page, section 1, is the application cover page. The first page of the application should be a completed contact page and signed statement of understanding. This should be completed by the clinical internship coordinator. Section 2 are the individual exemplars. Each item on the application should be filled out with a narrative and a list of supporting documents that demonstrate how the clinical internship meets the expectations for accreditation. Within the individual exemplars section, there are 3 subsections. The first subsection is clinical supervision. This section is mandatory for accreditation. If the clinical internship is unable to meet all the expectations included in this section, accreditation will not be granted. The second subsection are internship requirements and structure. Again, this is a mandatory section for accreditation. If the clinical internship is unable to meet all expectations included, accreditation will not be granted. The third subsection are clinical competencies. This section is divided into 3 domains. Each section will be scored against a weighted scoring grid. There is a threshold score needed for accreditation, as it is understood that a clinical internship may not meet every expectation in this subsection. However, they can still earn accreditation. The 3 domains for the subsection of clinical competencies are professional responsibility, assessment, and clinical intervention. So again, the clinical supervision section is mandatory for accreditation. If the clinical internship is unable to meet all the expectations stated here, then accreditation will not be granted. Section 2, subsection B, are the internship requirements and structures. Again, this section is mandatory for accreditation. If the clinical internship is unable to meet all the expectations included, accreditation will not be granted. These expectations include 100 hours that the applicant is required to come with 100 hours of experience with well infants, children, youth, and/or families, 100 hours of experience with infants, children, youth, and/or families in stressful situations, healthcare settings, and/or programs designed for children with special needs. Successfully completed child life coursework inclusive of the 6 curriculum topics as required by this ACLP, and completed the academic coursework portion of the eligibility assessment. In the internship structure, they need to provide combined 600 hours of clinical experience, and of the 600 hours, a minimum of 2 rotations that are at least 6 weeks in length, with 1 clinical rotation supervisor per rotation. The remaining 3 weeks can be completed in whatever way the clinical internship deems appropriate. So moving on to the clinical competencies in subsection C. This section, as we discussed previously, is divided into the 3 domains of professional responsibility, assessment, and clinical intervention. Each section will be scored against a weighted scoring grid. There is a threshold score needed for accreditation. It is understood that clinical internships may not meet every expectation in this section. However, they can still earn accreditation. Within the domain of professional responsibility, the applying program will include evidence of how they support intern learning and skills in the related categories of professional development, professional responsibilities, relationships, documentation, education, administrative responsibilities, and volunteer management. Specific learning experiences are listed within each of these categories for programs to demonstrate how they meet the individual competency criteria. In competency subsection C, domain 2 is assessment. Within the domain of assessment, the applying program will include evidence of how they support intern learning and skills in the related categories of stress potential, developmental variables, and psychosocial variables. Specific learning experiences are listed within each of these categories for programs to demonstrate how they meet the individual competency criteria. In subsection C, domain 3, clinical interventions. Within the domain of clinical interventions, the applying program will include evidence of how they support intern learning and skills in the related categories of play, support, integrated and/or expressive therapies, technology, palliative and end-of-life care, coping strategies, environment, social interactions, advocacy, patient and family education and preparation, therapeutic relationships, and patient and family-centered care. Specific learning opportunities are listed within each of these categories for programs to demonstrate how they meet the individual competency criteria.
Section 3, attachment of supporting documents and narratives. Each item on the application should be filled out with a narrative and a list of supporting documents, if applicable, that demonstrate how the clinical internship meets the expectations for accreditation. Fill out the narrative section in the online application. Write a narrative that best describes the clinical internship's practice to meet that specific requirement. There is a 500-word limit. Attach all supporting documents within the specified area in the online application. More than one supporting document can be used for competency. Examples of supporting documents may include PowerPoint presentations, presentation outlines, assignments, internship calendar, or a list of readings. This is an example of narrative and supporting documents. Complete the narrative in the space that is provided. Attach all supporting documents within the specified area in the online application. What does scoring look like? A scoring matrix will calculate the score of each section. Each yes/no that is marked by the reviewer is calculated in the final score. This is an example of what the computer system is calculating based on the number of yes/no responses to each of the lettered requirements. Each numbered competency within the domain receives a score. All of the scores are then added together to create a final score for the subsection and domain. Scoring and feedback. Each subsection has a minimum threshold it must meet in order to pass that subsection. The reviewer is encouraged to offer feedback when needed. For example, changes that need to be made if a competency received a no, or overall feedback, both constructive and praise, is forwarded to the chief reviewer for consideration to be included in the overall feedback form. There are three possible outcomes to the application. The first, accreditation. All expectations in subsections A and B are met. All domains in subsection C earn the threshold score needed for accreditation. If accredited, the clinical internships will be listed on the ACLP website with recognition of accreditation. Application extended pending edits. In this way, all expectations in subsections A and B are met or can be met with minimal action on the part of the applicant within a 90 calendar day period, which is 1 quarter, upon receipt of status. Domains in subsection C earn the threshold score needed for accreditation, or the reviewer determines that accreditation can be earned with minimal action on the part of the applicant within a 90-day calendar period. Clinical internships will have 90 days to make the suggested changes to the clinical internship and resubmit for accreditation at no cost. Accreditation denied. Expectations in subsection A and B are not met, and it is not expected that the applicant can meet these expectations within 90 days. The domains in subsection C do not meet the threshold score needed for accreditation, and it is not expected that the applicant can earn the threshold scores within the 90-day period. If accreditation is denied, clinical internships may choose to either, 1, appeal the decisions following the appeals process, or 2, reapply after 12 months from the receipt of the decision with recommended changes in place. Full accreditation fees will apply. The appeals process. The ACLP Board of Directors has approved a process through which clinical internships may appeal a denial of accreditation. An adverse accreditation decision is defined as the denial or revocation of accreditation status to an applicant of the ACLP Clinical Internship Accreditation Program. Accreditation decisions may be appealed by applicants who feel that the decision was not accurate. To file an adverse accreditation decision, the applicant must initiate the appeals process. Process and timeline is as follows. The appeal must be submitted in writing to the ACLP office within 60 days, which is 8 weeks, of notification of denial indicating that the clinical internship is appealing the decision of the clinical internship reviewer. Attach a letter which explains the grounds for appeal. List each component that was identified by the reviewer as deficient and state specific reason or reasons why you disagree with their decision. No new evidence may be submitted on appeal. Only materials properly submitted to the clinical internship reviewers prior to the decision that is in subject of appeal may be considered in the appeal. There is a $250 processing fee for the appeals process. The IAOC has 2 weeks to respond to the appeal with either a yes, there is grounds for an appeal, or no, there is not grounds for an appeal. If agreed there is grounds for an appeal, the IAOC will appoint a new panel to review the appeal. Appeals reviews may be the following quarter or a quarter later in time. This is dependent upon the reviewer availability. Upon completion of its review, the panel will either uphold or reverse the decision to deny accreditation and will mail a decision letter to the clinical internship primary contact. This decision is final and binding. Complete documentation of each appeal and outcome will be maintained along with the clinical internship application in the ACLP office. In the event of a failure to submit within the required time frame, the letter of appeal, the appeal fee, or the grounds for appeal, the appeal will be dismissed and the clinical internship reviewer's decision will become final. Maintenance and review plan. An annual maintenance report will be submitted to the IAOC. The maintenance report will ask for the number of interns hosted, confirmation of upholding the required criteria for accreditation, and identifying any past change or upcoming change to the clinical internship that may affect accreditation status. The annual maintenance fee is $100. A 5-year renewal report will also be required. That will ask for the number of interns hosted in relation to the number of interns who have become certified. It is important to note that the data gathered through certified intern inquiry does not affect accreditation status. It is merely a tracking tool for the ACLP. A renewal fee is to be determined. Reporting a concern. Once a clinical internship has become accredited, they must continue to follow the accreditation standards set forth by the ACLP and IAOC. If a concern arises that an accredited program is violating a standard, a grievance may be filed with the IAOC. A guide is posted on the ACLP Internship Accreditation page to help a person determine if a concern could be an actionable item that a person could file a grievance on. To file a grievance, fill out the clinical internship grievance form posted on the ACLP Internship Accreditation page and return it to the ACLP. Clinical internship grievance forms have detailed information will be gathered regarding the concern. The person filling the grievance will remain anonymous to the clinical internship program. All grievances will be reviewed and determined if a full investigation is needed. The final decision will be communicated to both the clinical internship in question and the person who filed the grievance. What if I have a question? We recognize that this is a new endeavor for you and our profession. We are here to help with any questions you may have along the way. Please visit our webpage for further information and email us with questions. A member of the IAOC or staff member with ACLP will return your email. Thank you.